Well, it finally happened. I have to apologize for poor audio quality on my part. I had to switch to a different recording setup than usual for this conversation, and it should only impact my voice, but I appreciate your patience on at least the first few minutes of this recording. Welcome to Recross the Paths. My name is Cade, and today I am here with Illuminous. I am so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm really excited to unpack a couple of projects you've worked on, the monocolored and multicolored cube spaces. But I wanted to start just with kind of an open question. Illuminous, why cube? What's gotten you into this practice?
I started Magic in Scars of the Mirrodin block. It was at the end where the Marins lost. I touched on Cube a little bit with Milo the Gathering back when I think Boros Reckoner was still a good card. Savannah Lion was still just a 2-1 with no effects. And I started working on that project, but I got busy supporting myself out of high school, and then I joined the military. And after that, I was going to like F&M drafts after base, after work hours. Then I think after COVID hit, did EDH and CDH webcams. Just playing different formats didn't feel right with me until I don't know how I got back into Cube. I think people were just posting in that LGS channel, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then it was like, I wouldn't say inclusive, but like it was only happened like once a month, and I'm like, that's not enough Magic for me. So then I went to an LGS further. We did different like cubes, like peasant mostly, or desert style cubes, or color restricted cubes, and we've been jamming for a while, for like a year now, and it's just fantastic. The reason why the cube, it's free. The curator just makes the cube, brings the land station if it's not a desert, and brings the tokens and have fun.
So did you come into that with the hope to build your own cube, or was it something that you built into over time?
It was a built over time because with me, I'm very articulate and picky about how a cube is made. Like I'm stuck on right now the Brea cube, or like the eggs cube with lantern control and stuff. But I'm happy with like I finished like and updating some of the chromatic cubes and some of my 3-color cubes. But yeah, cube is like an ever evolving thing over time as things get updated with functional reprints or better reprints of different cards.
And you have a lot of a lot of reprints to keep up with in the projects you're working on. The ones I wanted to explore some today with you are what you've called the chromatic cubes. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. How did it all start? So I think it was last year from January, beginning of the year, January around this time. That's where I started like building my cubes, and Discord was popping off again after COVID times, and just like last year was like all these like cubes been expanding, and just like listening from Lucky Paper Radio's thing and other content creators like yourself, and the more people that are coming out, it's like cube is still growing, and I was like, well, I better get on the cube train and start building some cubes. So I was like, I don't want to build like vintage cube will always have its place, and then you got different format cubes, and then you have these designer cubes that have certain restrictions, and I wanted to do a color cube. And what really drew me inspiration was Tyler's Jun cube, and I played it at Cali Cube Champs last year, and that's where I started designing. I think it was like, who hasn't designed a 3-color cube? Which one? I was like, and I'm just talking with my group. I'm like, no one's done Tamir yet. No one's done Jeskai. So I did like a rough draft of Jeskai, and while doing that, I was working on the chromatic cubes. I took someone's vintage powered mono red cube, and I dumbed it down for price and availability standards, and I used that as a basis for the other colors.
It sounds like you also did a colorless variant as well, right?
Yes, I did a devoid color cube because I think I forget who did the devoid cube. Sorry.
Oh, that'd be Dan.
It's called the devoid cube, but I feel that in Dan's devoid cube, there's not a lot of devoids. So I was like, there's a bunch of cards that just have devoid, but they're not that good. And I'm like, they're good. in certain frameworks of different cubes, you have like it's just like a limited draft. Like you got these D to F cards that are unplayable, but they can shine at certain cube formats as long as the curator bumps up the strength in whatever restrictions or design that they build.
That's I think a good segue into this idea. Each mono color as you're building it has pretty distinct strengths and weaknesses. Like there are things that certain colors just can't do. How did you start working with that as you were trying to engage with individual colors?
I think it started with the mono red cube, and just mono red has like most answers for most things except for enchantments. So the mono red cube has not as many enchantments as more so other cubes. And then there's not really much removal in green except for fight and bite spells. And similar to red, black doesn't have a lot of enchantment removal. And recently I played the mono black cube in around the fall time last year, and I got feedback that Bitter Blossom in the mono black cube is like one of the power nine. So it's potentially on the lookout to be banned potentially because it's just so good in black. The mono black cube you just can't answer that. Even with the removal that we get for like Withering Torment, Shadow the Oath.
Yeah, the options are pretty few and far between on that.
Mm-hmm.
So you noted on your process of building these chromatic cubes that you started with a powered vintage monocolored list. How well does that translate to different colors, and how much do you feel like you have to adjust things for each color?
Like I said, I took the mono red vintage cube list, I copy pasted, cloned it, etc. And then I just took out cards that either I didn't have, couldn't afford, or didn't like, and I just put like budget versions. And then I built it, and if cards that I didn't have that I couldn't order at the time, I just printed off, put a slip of paper, or I even did the poor man's proxy of just writing it on a notebook paper, and there's your ruby medallion at the time. So I did that, and I think it was before our LGS, the one that we cube at, transferred to a bigger location. We played the mono red cube, and everyone loved it. They thought it was great color restriction. Everyone had fun. Everyone could do similar things, but at different levels. Because in the mono red cube, there's aggro, of course. There's goblins, tribal synergies, artifacts, and like it can do a lot of fun shenanigans. And like I said, I used that vintage cube as a basis, and then I copied the like a staircase of CMC value or mana value. So there's a bunch of 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops, and it just starts going down, and then it like the later there's like a 9, 8 drops plus that get discounted or whatsoever, and then I transfer that over with the mono black cube. That's the second one I worked in the chromatic cube, and I at the time after I was working on the mono red cube, load rarely run. I think Wheeler had a 180 mono black cube, which I used that as a skeleton. Added a bunch of much more black cards, hybrid cards, etc. And it tasted very well, except for the aforementioned enchantment removal.
Yeah, not much to do about a troublesome enchantment in mono black.
No, not at all.
But I think that's something that's valuable to highlight. I love that you drew some interest from different places, but I also wanted to draw attention to how, or I imagine how differently a mono blue cube or a mono white cube is going to look from something like mono red.
For mono blue, I haven't tested in paper yet. It's I don't know if I will be able to test it in paper, but it's similar to it's like a mid-range tempo deck. It follows the same standards of the other cubes as a basis of having a bunch of 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops, and then its removal is basically counter spells that aren't full counters or situational, and card draw and bind control effects. That's a hard question because I can't really say much without having testing data, and I haven't tested blue, green, or white.
Is that a goal to build all of them in paper? Or is this kind of like a thought experiment that you just wanted to have wanted to explore over time?
It started as a thought experiment over time and just messing with different colors, but that was also another goal, was to actually play them in paper because it's not peasant, it's not pauper, It's just hard to call a color restricted cube in a format.
Right. Yeah.
It's like good blue cards, good color cards of a certain restrictive color. So all good blue cards that aren't overpowered because I don't think I have Force of Will in the mono blue cube because I have Flows of Knowledge, Gush, Misdirection, and Mystic Confluence. Certain cards that are in limited or sealed environments that are usually a DNF that are not playable in any environments, they get to shine in these restrictive formats.
I imagine that contributes to a wider power band too, where you have some that are kind of format defining all stars, but then you also get some of those that are maybe more toward the chaff end of the draft.
Yes, for like for instance, there's the color hate cycle of the defeats from Our Devastation, like Chandra's
Yes.
Defeat, 1 mana red instant, deals 5 to target red creature or red planeswalker, and if the permanent was a red planeswalker, you get to rummage. Or the Eldraine's cycle of color hates, I forget which one, but it's like Gainsay, 2 mana instant, counter target blue spell. That's just fantastic for anything. It's just color restrictive, but still removal or good cards in that cube.
Yeah, I remember a cycle like that in the original Theros block. Things like Dark Betrayal is the one that came to mind, or there was the Hunter, I think is the green one.
Yes, and Peak Eruption in red, which is 3 mana destroy target mountain, deals 3 to them, which is crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As soon as you said Dark Betrayal, I'm like, I know what cycle you're talking about. Yep, that's in a mono black cube. They're all there.
And that's kind of fun. So often your color hate is in an off color, but it's kind of cool to have it in the color so it can engage with itself.
Mm.
So we're going to dive in a little bit to the red cube in particular, but I wanted to ask broadly about this Chromatic Cube project for you. What have you learned from the process that you didn't expect?
I didn't think people would want. I think it was 2 weeks ago. That Sunday we played my cube, the mono red cube, with like updated cards like Clockwork, Percussionist, a lot of cards that were changed out. I think 10 or 20. That I think it was a year, and it needed an overdue thing. And what people wanted was like more land destruction or make mono red control, and I thought that was an interesting ideal and aspect because one of the decks in mono red is kind of control-y. I think it's control-y where there's a bunch of 4-drop planeswalkers, and one of them is a Duretti Scrap Skirvon, and there's like trash for treasure shenanigans where you can sack one of your cheap artifacts and you get Bosch, Iron Golem, Ancient Stone Idol, or Spine of Ishal. And in that draft, I love draft, and I think I got both Trash for Treasure and Duretti and Bosch, and I was just doing funny things with that. And another player had both Welders and Spine of Ishal. I was like, no, I can't let you have Welder and Engineer. You can have the other one. I was like, get rid of that.
Boy, yeah, you guys both get to play kind of the swap game of of exchanging artifacts.
The mirror match. It was interesting to see the mirror match. I didn't know it was contested. I was like, that's quite interesting. Besides the usual, what actually was winning that pod was I think the Storm player, and Storm Singleton in mono red is kind of hard to do because
Yeah.
there's only a few ritual cards and Storm payoff cards, and they also wanted me to put one of the new cards from Outlaw Junctions that gets you a 4/4 elemental eruption, 6 mana. Create a 4/4 dragon elemental with flying. Oh, it has prowess. I did not know it had prowess. I'm seeing this card for like I skim it all the time on Scryfall. And it says, oh man, it has Storm too. That's crazy. And now with the new addition of Dragon Skill Scion from the new Tarkir set, that thing also has Storm. So like,
You have options.
yeah, I have options, and I'm just like, what do I do? How do I fit Elemental Eruption, Storm Scaled Dragon, and they also wanted original Dragon Storm back in the modern days of Dragon Storm into probably Borgel and Hellkite past turn.
Well, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, modern cards do kind of just keep on going sometimes. It's like, oh right, it also does this. Well, I think that's a helpful jumping off point here for when we're thinking about the red cube. Of course, in the Chromatic Cube project that you're working on, this is the mono red cube cards that only include red in the color identity or hybrid cards, which I love, and I want to unpack in just a second. But I want to ask, since we're thinking about it, you consider this cube to have archetypes, like does that play out in the way people draft and how games play out?
Yeah, so like normally people think mono red, it's aggro, goblins, and burn, which it has all three of those things, but at various levels, depending on who's drafting and their playstyles. I saw one of my he plays cube, but he also plays competitively in a sealed or limited league, and seeing his deck and he's playing the best of his ability, and he played a bunch of 5 drops that was like he had Fury, Glorybringer, Goldspan Dragon, and just a bunch of good stuff. And I was like, he's playing like a cool mid-range mono red deck, and that was just quite interesting to see. And he was just doing decent. Just the Storm player just was able just to run away with it.
That's awesome. When we think of monocolors, I imagine there's this fear that things are just going to bleed into each other, that decks are going to feel very samey. But it sounds like there may be enough directions there that people are able to lean into something more concrete.
Mm-hmm. Depending on your play group and the players, I know Glenn and Jordan, one's a limited player and one just does crazy like I know in Nadia's cube, Jordan tries to go for KCI combos or something, or he'll try some funny weird thing. And with a mono red cube, lo and behold, he was doing madness stuff. So he goes 100%. He was doing madness things with Anjay's Ravager and just containment constructs thing and just like flashing back stuff and just he's milling himself out, but I'm taking like 10, 15 damage a turn. I'm just like, that's cool.
Well, in the cards that are going to support that kind of play aren't going to be the same that are going to support like a storm or even a late game control sort of thing.
Not all the cards will fit all the archetypes, but I don't know. It's hard to describe because like it's like all good monocolored cards besides the hybrid cards. They are okay by themselves, but then they go into other things like NT Essential of the Sun is a decent aggro card, but also feels discard madness. Their artifact reanimator package.
Yeah, Inti kind of an all-star. It touches on all sorts of different things.
Mm-hmm.
With this cube and with your other monocolor cubes, you've included hybrid cards in the mix. How much overlap do you find there is with hybrid cards between the different cubes?
So like Boris Reckoner, does it go in the mono red and the mono white cube?
Yeah, I think that's a good example. Or like a murderous red cap that's a critical combo piece. Do you see that appear in multiple lists for yourself?
No, I don't think they cross pollinate. It just depends on the hybrid card because we have the cards like Murderous Red Cap. It can go in the mono black cube, and then there's the cycle of companion cards that everyone says that Lutri's bad, and I'm just like, no, Lutri's not bad. It can shine here. It can shine here. It can shine in the mono blue cube. The same thing for Sihili's Sublime Artificer. It can do in the Spells Matter deck here, or do funny things in the mono blue cube.
Well, to any end there, I certainly appreciate that they are there. I know that's one of those, especially with many people in the commander space, hybrid cards are functionally multicolored in how they can be included, but I think there's something cool about having those here where they do fit in the monocolor space.
Oh, 100%. That's always one of the never-ending battle debates of is my Umora the Collector, is it a Golgari card? Is it mono green, mono black? No, you can't have it. But I think that's what differentiates from commander players to cubers is the design space, and we can think outside the box or cube, and we can be like, yeah, that can fit in the mono green cube, or that can fit in the mono red cube within reason as curators.
Illuminous, one of the things that you have in the overview of the red cube is you say that you have this goal of getting closer to, quote, the definitive mono red cube, end quote. What does that look like to you?
Out of all the cubes I've built right now, the mono red is probably, if I had to put a scale of 1 to 10 or like a percentage on it, I think it's 90%. Not finished because cube's ever evolving and updating, but it's like not, you can't call it perfect, but it's a great cube to play. And like all my other cubes, like I'm struggling designing my peasant cube or overhauling my peasant cube. I keep redesigning from like I updated after I think it was Peasant before Modern Horizons 3, and then Modern Horizons 3, we got a lot of goodies in Peasant. And now, like, there's like a landfall thing, graveyard thing, and I just want to take what I did with the Mono Red Cube and like carry it over to all my other cubes. And it's a struggle, but I think I do well in color restrictive than format.
Do you feel like there are particular elements of that success that you're able to carry over? Like, are there particular things that you can latch onto?
Yes. I think with the success of the mono red cube and learning lessons with the mono black cube of the color pies, the density, and like the weaknesses of each color, I can I can see the design philosophy. I can see what I need to upgrade or how to change each colors in that particular chromatic or shard or whatever design it is.
There are a couple setup things that I really like about what you're doing with the red cube here. You mentioned there were a couple of unique things that you were doing, particularly with Arclight, Phoenix, and Asmarana Martica Dice to Nakuldakar. Do you want to speak to those?
Yes. So playing in Cali Cube Champs and looking at different curators and what they design cubes, you have different designs of cubes. You have special rules, and the original design of this cube, it had both Asmiranda or Kuldakar and the cookbook in here, and I think it had a total of 3 arc-like phoenixes. And I didn't like that because it that was a couple spaces of other cards could go in the cube. So I think drafting Asmiranda or Murdercar, you should get the cookbook, or if you draft 1 arc-like phoenix, you get 2 or 3 other arc-like phoenixes. I don't know if 4 is busted right now or 3 is fair. I don't know if I did that with other cubes. I think with the Devoid cube, or the Colorless cube, I combine an aspect of Bones' a Ganjo Drift where you start with a mech hanger in play, and I did that one with I think Corrupted Crossroads is the Devoid land that produces Wooburg or any color you want.
Right, only for devoid spells, like literally spells of
Yes.
devoid.
Yes, that's why I was like, there's not a lot of Devoid stuff in Dance Cube, and I was like, I'm just gonna put all these Devoid cards in there. Like, they're good on their own, but they get better over time with all these Devoid colorless synergies and stuff. So, how I did that, it was a Devoid Desert Cube, so we had to draft our lands as well. Besides, I think the only lands you didn't draft were the Waste. So it had like the Pain lands or a bunch of lands that are kind of like the Fire Swamps, where they produce the colors you need, but they hurt you.
Yeah, there's a cost to it.
Hmm.
Did you consider breaking Singleton for cards beyond Arclight Phoenix, or did that feel like it was just necessary for the like that play pattern?
I haven't thought about it like that. I think for Arc like Phoenix, definitely because I don't think the spells matter of like Young Pyromancer or Dreadhorde Arcanus is. I think it's an under right now. I think it's doing not as good in the mono red cube right now. So I need a little bit more play data, see if it's good, see if I can't bump the spells matter deck. I know the storm one can pop off. I need to see if it 3-0s again and then take a look back on it. But I have not applied the arc like Phoenix. I don't know if any of the other colors need that.
In the spirit of breaking Singleton, I wanted to ask about the burn package since that's such an iconic element of red. How did you decide on your mix of burn spells?
I don't think I decided it was mostly from the leftover vintage, and it just all the made sense. So for 1 drops, iconically, it's Chandra's Defeat, Love Dart, Lightning Axe, Lightning Bolt, Red Cap Melee, Spikefield Hazard, and Unholy Heat, and that's it's basically a bunch of 1, 2, and 3 drops that deal 3, and it can answer most aggro threats before the late game 4, 5, and later late game drops that are just big board presence like Inferno Titan, Hellcat Tyrant, Gear Hulk, Hellraiser, a bunch of things that they'll need 2 burn spells essentially. I don't think I need to break Singleton for that. There's just so many good removal spells of like they might be highly fought over contested too, but like it just depends. Like Unholy Heat is a shock variant of a creature to planeswalker, but it gets better with the discard or mill package of just playing a bunch of sting and it's like, oh, I got delirium, I can deal 6 to your Infernatine.
Yeah, and I know this has been, pun certainly intended, hotly debated, but one of those things where there's a lot of curators who are like, why bother with all the different types if people just want 15 copies of Lightning Bolt, or the challenge of having something like Lightning Bolt and also an Incinerate in the same environment. Like, is that a challenge to consider, or do you think it's like the spirit of Singleton rules here?
I think it's the spirit of Singleton rules. It also, I like to get promos or like full arts of certain things. So like the old F&M promos that the foiling, they don't usually curl like the double masters or commander master sets nowadays. Those foils curve most likely, and the F&M promos or the old promos back in the day, they don't normally curl, and some of them like I like their arts. So I'm not gonna spend a bunch like I don't know what the amount of money is. I keep budget in mind as a cube person, and I like having different variation of cards of Singleton, like Incinerate and Incinerate Flow. Both deal 3. One's an instant and one's an exile effect. And some of them, because there is the Hazarets, I needed an answer for that. So like our devastation is deal 5 to everything and everything lose indestructible. That's like the one answer to that.
I will say that basically celebrating different arts is maybe my favorite answer for why you would include a bunch of different burn spells. So thank you for that. That's really good.
I would honestly lose track if there was a multiple lightning bolts and I would just be like, oh, this is my first lightning bolt. Oh, there's another lightning bolt. And it's like everyone, it would be highly fought over and picked. And then it's like, oh, you have 1 open mana. Is that a lightning bolt? I'm at 4. And it's like, oh, you got lethal on board, don't you? It's like, yeah. And it's like, oh.
This is like maybe based on the success of the 100 Ornithopters cube. Maybe we should be looking at the 100 Lightning Bolts cube.
Oh, I think someone's been cooking. I think someone's cooking on that. Someone on main Discord, I think, is doing 100 something, and that's interesting. I don't know if that's a project I would pursue as 100 lightning bolts, but that's interesting tangent to go off from a 0/2 mana artifact creature that you can do cool things with, which I need to play. Someone proxied it or someone made that in our play group, and I want to play that. That was one of the cubes I saw at CubeCon last year. I want to play the 100 Ornithopters and the Changeling cube.
Oh yeah, great choices. So I wanted to ask why, or what do you think it is about red in particular that you're excited about here? With all the different colors you could have chosen, why is this one the one that resonated for you?
Red's one of my 2 primary favorite colors because my color pair is the Is It Guild and it's red blue. I like the creativity and the knowledge, but I also like the chaos of things. I remember one of my earliest kitchen table magics before we started playing Commander for like 6 hours and we were playing like weird EDH rules. I would play Burn Deck and I'd run Lightning Bolts, I'd run Incinerates, and my top curve would be Lava Axe. Pay 5, deal you 5, and just win with damage.
A purist, really.
Yes.
Where do you see a project like this going next? Do you want to expand past the monocolors?
I kind of have. I did a Just Sky Desert Cube. Like I said, I saw Tyler do Jun, and I was thinking, what color combinations have people not done? And it's like looking at CubeCon's past list. I was like Esper, and I saw some people voting on a Jank Cube, and I was like, oh, I want to play Siege Rhino. I was like, dang, somebody did that. And like Nadia was like, oh, I'm doing an Abzan Enchantress Cube, and I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, okay, and I was really happy with the recent inclusion of Baby Siege Rhino from Dragons of Tarkir.
The skirmish rhino, yeah.
The Skirmish Rhino, but we call it Baby Siege Rhino though. I know someone in our play group did a Is It Cube. I don't know if I would go to the guild routes. I do like doing shards and wedges. They're fun to do because it's 3 color and you can have 3 of the guilds in them. I don't know which color I would do next. Maybe Tamir because I want to do froggy things in Tamir with
Oh, you're talking about flubs?
Yeah, flubs. Do storm
Flub's the
things and
fool.
fooling around with flubs.
And the art for Flub's based on a famous tarot card set, as I recall.
Yeah, the fool card.
It's really clever. As you've worked on these and as you're thinking about what's next on the docket for you, what advice would you share from your own journey that you think may help other designers?
That's another good question. I would say it's hard to create a cube from scratch. Do what most people do is not exactly copy a cube, but clone the cube, take out cards you don't like, either you don't like, you can't afford, put in cards you think are budget friendly and you like because they're like your pet cards, like Baby Siege Rhino or something, and test it on draft with your friends, and then Sharpie or print out proxies, test it out in paper after you test it on Draftomancer or something, and just refine it over time. And if you like it, your friends like it, then it's great.
Well, I want to say I really like what you've done here, and I like hearing about the process of exploring each of these and really going all the way through that. I think it's easy to look at a project of this scope and maybe do part of it, but the fact that you've completed 5 monocolor and a devoid version, and you're going past that is really a testament to your passion for it. So nicely done.
Thank you.
Well, Illuminous, one of my favorite questions to ask here, I want to make sure we get to. If you could have any card printed as a promo, what card would you pick and who would you have do the illustration?
That is a tough one. To narrow it down, it would be probably a weird typo thing. It would be one of the mirrors. I gotta say,
Okay.
from having original Mirrodin, and then by Kev Walker, and then I actually have two of Alan Pollock's Scars of Mirrodin prints that are hanging on my walls. I would have to say it would be promo of Ally Mirror. I like its original art, but I would like it to. I don't know who would design it, either Kev Walker or Alan Pollock, but I'd also like the one by the artist itself was from Matt.
Matt Cavada, I think, did the original Alloy Mirror.
Yes, because like the Alamir just has all 5 suns, and I think that's beautiful. So I would like to have a different art of that for one of the mirrors, because for the longest time I thought that beak was their eyes, and I was like, oh, that's not their eyes. Their eyes are right there, and I was like, oh, different perspectives. But I like these guys because lore-wise, they're an underrepresented lore in Magic, and they're still surviving. I was actually pretty happy when they released a Urtet Remnant of Memnarch. I'm like, yes, more Murs.
the the Mirror Commander that everyone was so excited to try right away.
Yes.
Well, Luminous, this has been a treat for me, and I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to guide us through these projects of yours and the Red Cube in particular. If folks want to see more of these monochromatic cubes, or maybe non-chromatic, and when you get to the devoid one, or they want to follow up on any of your other projects, where would be the best place for us to point them?
Probably my Discord. My server name's usually Illuminous 2013. I'm mostly in the Cube servers or the Jank Diver Gaming, playing Peasant or Limited.
Some of the best choices.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much again for your time and your passion, and looking forward to more opportunities to connect in the future.
Thank you. Likewise.